Hey everybody, welcome back to the Resistance broadcast. I'm John, thanks for joining us today. It is our Thursday show, so it's discussion time. We have Will of the Force. It is back, baby! Although we did it last week, so...
Yeah,
Still
we have
a cool
here,
discussion
baby!
we're going to be doing. It hasn't left, baby. We have a cool discussion coming up later where we're going to talk about nostalgia in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. How much? What are we thinking? It's going to be a fun discussion. But we're just off the heels of Star Wars Day. May the 4th is come and gone. Lacey and James with me. Lacey, we're not going to get into it too much now because we did a sort of reaction video on Star Wars Day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So people can head over there to check out our reactions on all the things that were talked about on Star Wars Day. But here we're here to get down to business and talk some nostalgia and stuff like that. So Lacey, let me start with you. Are you? I don't like the term fan service, but are you a nostalgia person? Do you get on with that sort of thing when like stuff gets turned back around to kind of like bring you back to those good vibes of childhood? Like, are you down with nostalgia type stuff?
Yeah, if it's done well. I think it depends on how it's done and like where they bring things up. Like a good example recently would be the Ghostbusters teaser that they did. Like I feel like that's really good nostalgia, but I've seen other stuff. Like we talk about Rogue One where they bring up Dr. Avazian and Ponda Baba. Like that just seemed like reaching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we were just
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what's funny? Like Bill Murray like watched that clip and I guess he really laughed and he enjoyed that new Ghostbusters teaser. And Bill Murray seems like one of those guys. James, I don't know how big of a Bill Murray fan you are.
He brought up the music specifically. He said the
music. He brought up the music. He seems like one of those guys that everyone wants to please or impress. And I feel like by doing that, they felt like, wow, we got like the nod from the guy.
The sign off,
so James, yeah, James, are you a Bill Murray guy? Like, are you into his stuff?
Yeah, I'm into Bill Murray. I mean, like, I'm not one like, I never saw Stripes, and I'm not looking to go back to watch it or something because I'm a Bill Murray fan, so I gotta watch all of them or something. But when I see him and stuff, I like him. It's weird that you guys. I mean, I'm excited for the new Ghostbusters because I think it could be good, but like that trailer with the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, it felt very like salesy and like
I loved it.
We're only doing this to get you to
I'm
hit the member berry thing.
I'm not entirely sure that's part of the movie. That could have been just one of those vignettes that they had like Paul Rudd do to just like for the marketing element. I don't know that that's a scene from the movie. You think so?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe you're right, but yeah, I was down. If you go back and watch like the first trailer or whatever, I really liked that. I thought everything like hit well in that one, but in that one with Paul Rudd stuff, I was like, I'm not feeling this as much.
Oh, I loved it.
But it seemed like everybody was like super excited about it too, and I was like, are you guys? Are you not seeing the like? They're like. The little Stay Puft Marshmallow Mans to me was just straight like marketing. Like, oh, we need our bone baby Yoda. And so we're going to make this thing.
I thought it was cute. I thought it was fun. And you got Jason Reitman doing it, who's, Ivan Reitman's son. And Jason Reitman was one of the kids at the birthday party in Ghostbusters 2. And there's just that familial tie to the thing. It's almost like a little bit of John Kasdan co-writing Star Wars with Lawrence Kasdan, and I kind of like that. And I get the whole nepotism thing, like, he's Ivan Reitman's son, of course he's gonna direct Ghostbusters. But
I didn't mean to turn this into a Ghostbusters podcast. I was just giving a good example.
No, and you know what? I think that's fine because I think sometimes they like when we talk about other stuff, especially at the top. But yeah, I mean, we are obviously a Star Wars podcast, so we just want to quickly remind everybody that coming up soon, Lacey's always good with these countdowns. 3 weeks from this past Monday's Make Solo 2 Happen Day. And all you're going to have to do that day is take to your social media accounts. Star Wars Day is gone. It came and went. Now, Make Solo 2 Happen Day. So take to your social media accounts, use hashtag 18 days, folks.
That was me doing math.
Yeah, good math. You just have to take to your social media accounts and use hashtag Make Solo 2 Happen all day. Use it once, use it 5 times, whatever. We have some more details we're going to be coming out soon to let you know about what we got going on there. But mainly it's just using that hashtag, letting people know why you love Solo and why you want them to make Solo 2 happen in a movie or Disney Plus series. So if you're down with that, join us on May 24th, Monday. Okay, James. Will of the Force. Let's do it.
I fear nothing, for all is as the Force wills it.
Everyone, if you enjoy our podcast, please consider supporting us by becoming a patron. Just go to patreon.com/resistance broadcast and check out our tier options. We really appreciate all the support as it keeps the show growing and will allow us to create bigger and better content as we move forward. So thank you all to our current and future supporters. If you want to sign up at the $5 tier, you can submit topics to this segment right here, Will of the Force, that we're getting ready to get into. Sign up today. Before we get to this week's topics, I do want to give a big shout out to our top tier patrons, and those are our generals. Those people by name are Carmelo, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, Neil Shaw, David Probus, John Reese, Micah Harrison, Jetta Rosewater, Michael Gaines, Kendall Gellner, Paul Olson, Jay Couchins, Jeff Connery, Oliver Lewis, Dave Hornack, Frank Grande, Ryan Wara, Hass Islam, Joe Ritchie, and Val Trichkov. So thank you, generals, for being the main contributors to our show. You really make a big difference. This week, I want to kick it off by one of our generals submitting a question. That's Ryan Wara. And Brian wanted to know, will Hera Syndulla appear on screen in Star Wars Andor? It's Will of the Force, baby. It's back. John, you're going first.
This is, I thought, such a great question, and it really twisted up my head. I couldn't definitively pick a choice because you got her mention in Rogue One, so it would be a nice little nod and say, like, we're gonna up the ante on that. You know, she's around Yavin Base. This show is about this guy. I'm still leaning towards no, so I'm gonna say she's not going to, but it would be such a good spot for it, especially if they are deciding to bring all these Rebels characters into live action. I'm leaning towards no, though. I'm gonna say no.
All right, Lacey, what do you think?
I'm gonna say yes, she will, because I think it's something that they could do that would please so many people, even if it's just a cameo. Like, it could literally be her at a meeting table at a big meeting of what's going to happen next, and she could have one line and it will drive fans crazy. So I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah, I really hope that it happens, but I'm with John that it won't. And I think the biggest thing about this is, like, my speculation on the Cassian Andor show was really in one place, and then they showed us that sizzle reel with, like, the artwork and stuff, and they showed him, like, out and doing things and all this, and I was like, this show's about Cassian. I kind of get this vibe that, like, it's not, I don't know, like, he's going to be on his mission doing his thing, and it's not so much going to be like back at the base, like maybe the first episode or something, which would be great if we saw it, and I'm really down to do it. But I just think that if you did that, it might take away from the show, and it's his show, you know? I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little too crazy on it, but yeah, I just don't think it's going to happen.
I like Lacey's idea. I know we were supposed to take turns on this thing, but I do like Lacey's idea. If they did do it, it'd be there she is. There's Hera, instead of like, here's Hera. Like,
yeah.
Just like, you know,
so like in Squadrons, for instance, she shows up, and Squadrons just looks so good that it feels almost live action. It almost feels like you were kind of getting her in that. But the weird thing is that, like, every time she's on screen, it's like, it kind of feels like it's taking away from the game, and you're being put out of the game and stuff. And I feel like a live action casting of this character, I don't know, it feels odd. Like, and I think they're just going to focus on Cassian Andor, the character. So I'm going to go with no on this one, unfortunately, but I'll really lose my mind if she walks into the room or something. That would be awesome. All right, let's move on to the next question. Will the inevitable Star Wars saga trilogy, episodes 10 through 12, of course, what we're talking about, be spaced out more, going back to the 3 years between films, like the original and the prequels? Or do you think they're going to keep to that 2-year separation like they did for the sequels? And Lacey, you're going first on this one. 2 year, 3 year, more year? How many years are we talking?
Yeah, I think they're going to space them out more once, I'm not going to say if, once they do 10 through 12, because I think they will. I think one of the biggest mistakes they made in the sequel trilogy was making those movies back to back and then having it only be a year for Rise of Skywalker. I would have liked to see some gapped time in between those movies, and I think it would have pushed the story along a little bit better if they had more time, especially between The Force Awakens and Last Jedi. I don't like how it's like the next day. To me, it's just like...
So you mean in real life? You mean in the story?
Oh.
John, I think, is asking the question of, like, it came out 77, 80, and 83 versus the, 2-year gaps.
Separation.
Well, I stand by my answer in canon. As for films, I think they're going to do the same.
Bonus Will of the Force.
I think they're going to do the same thing that they've done, which is the 2 years.
2 years. So, John, do you think they're going to stick to 2 years, or did you phrase this question because you think they're moving to 3?
I think they are going to go back because of the reason Lacey started giving for the story element. I see that for the production side because it was a crunch.
It was a crunch.
I felt like, and also just letting it breathe, because like the sequel trilogy came and went in 4 years, whereas if it was the correct span of the sequel, if it was the same separation as the original trilogy and prequels, it'd be later this year that we'd be getting our episode 9, which, you know, it's more time to enjoy as fans and speculate and do the whole experience. So I think they may space it out again because they're already probably stretching it out by doing more saga films, which I agree with Lacey. They're definitely going to do. And they're going to bring Rey back and they're going to do all that thing. I think a grown baby Yoda is going to be involved. I think it's going to be this big thing. But I think they'll do a 3-year gap to let it breathe and make sure the productions are, you know, not rushed or anything like that, and take their time more. And I can wait. I know, you know, it's, oh my God, I can't believe it's been 2 years. We're finally get to see The Last Jedi. I can wait another year. I'm cool with that. I'm all about the fan experience, the podcasting and all that stuff. So if they want to space them out 3 years, I'm down. I think I hope they do. So that's what I'm going to say. I think they will.
I'm going to change my answer and agree with John. I think they actually will space them out. Now that I'm thinking about it, I was thrown off by my original answer because, you know, The Force Awakens is perfection. I will stand by that. But they had a lot more time to get into that movie and for planning and everything else. And then
3 years. Yeah.
And then Last Jedi didn't have as much time, which we know. And we know from Director and the Jedi that Rian Johnson was really like under the gun to get the stuff done. And then we won't even get into the production of The Rise of Skywalker because it was kind of a mess in the sense of they had one guy, then they fired him, they got a different guy, he was in a rush, they were changing stuff last minute, they were figuring stuff out on set, they were shooting things differently, and it's because they didn't have enough time. So I think the only thing that can benefit the overall story, the production, and what the fans are going to like is more time. So that's my
Wow. So I don't know. I have a really weird, controversial answer, I think, and I'm not 100% sold that this trilogy happens. You guys were both like 100%
That's fine,
sure
but we're
of it.
saying if.
I know. So I think the thing that is leading my answer, though, is the thought that this is not episodes 10, 11, and 12 and all coming back after, let's say it happens in 10 years. Now we're looking at 12 years of other Star Wars movies that they're doing that are standalones and a bunch of TV series. Like, I don't know that 10, 11, and 12 are ever going to feel big like Star Wars is back because it will be after a decade if Star Wars hasn't left. Star Wars has been here for a decade. So
this is so like you not to answer the question, just answer the question.
I'm answering the question by explaining how I got there.
I guess. Go
so ahead. I think that if this trilogy ever does happen, I think it's more likely that they just shoot them all at the same time. Because they'll give it to one director, they'll give him the overarching story, they'll let him carry the story forward, and they'll say, you know, just this is your thing, do it all at the same time. And I think that would appease a lot of the fans that the criticism came out of, like, there was no direction, they should have let one guy do it or something. And so if they're moving forward with that big story and they're trying to sell it, I feel the best thing they could do, their best step forward, would not be to space it out over 3 years and let fans argue over the directions it's going to go, but more or less just be like, we're shooting it all and they're going to come out like really quickly, like 1 year after the next or something like that. 1 year.
I'm going to play devil's advocate. The only thing arguing against you at that point is Avatar, because Avatar, they have shot all at the same time, and those have been delayed numerous times before COVID, and they have not come out, and they're still coming out with 2 years.
Yeah, but that's James Cameron, and that's Avatar, and that's the exception.
This is under your plan. This is the assumption that it's going to be the same director doing all three films. Like, so I mean, maybe they do that.
Yeah, I just don't think episodes 10, 11, and 12 are going to be that big of a deal, considering we have so much live-action Star Wars content that's on the way.
Oh, are you kidding me? That is a wild statement.
Really?
Yes.
Because I think people think The Mandalorian is some of the best Star Wars that's come out since Disney bought it. And so already you have more people who care more about the TV shows than they ever did about the film, or not than they ever did, but than they currently do about the films. And so give 10 more years of television series. It's like, I think when 10, 11, and 12 come out, they're going to be like, oh, this is cool, but we've had a lot of Star Wars movies come and wane in and out.
When those kids who were 5, we're dragging this out, and that's fine. That's what we're doing. When those kids were 5,
I was going to say we are dragging this out.
Who met BB-8 and Rey are going to be 20 years old, it's going to be a big, big deal when they bring that stuff back around. But anyway.
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't think a movie can ever compare. Like, I don't think watching TV shows in your own house is ever going to compare to watching a Star Wars movie in the movie theater.
No.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the movie is, especially a saga film.
Yeah. But we're going to get a bunch of Star Wars movies in theaters. So the Force Awakens Star Wars is back it's not going to have the same vibe, same feel. Anyway, whatever.
Okay, in 10 years when it happens, James, I'm going to call you up and say, hey, James, remember that time you were wrong on
I'm going to be excited about it. It's just not going to do 1 billion domestic. Because
hey, James,
Star
remember
Wars
that time?
is
Let
back.
me play the clip for you.
Yeah. All right. All right, next one comes from another patron of ours, General Dave, Indie Dave, as he likes to be called. In the upcoming Andor series, will we see a Jedi presence and or possible Jedi temples on new planets not seen before? Lacey, I think you're going... No, John, you're going first on this one.
A Jedi presence. Who would be around?
I hope Indie Dave enjoyed his Baby Yoda margaritas.
He loves them. He loves a good marguerite. Yeah, he loves a good marguerite. I hope don't be too hungover, hopefully, because sometimes 2-day hangovers are real. He could be watching this still hungover from his margarita,
or still
hopefully
drinking
mixing
one.
Some waters. Yeah.
You gonna answer the question?
James,
you guys just give me a bunch of crap.
You took
17
hours to answer a question that wasn't asked.
The joke there, which you totally missed, the joke I was making is that John could be like, this lightsaber is blue, and you could be like, well, actually, if you look back in this book, lightsabers aren't actually blue. They start off.
I don't think there's gonna be a lightsaber or something yet. James, to answer the question, no. There will not be a Jedi presence in Andor for one of the reasons you brought up, James. I think this is going to be Cassian's show, and I don't know that there's who they're going to wedge in there for it to make sense besides Wedge Antilles, who's not a Jedi. No, I'm saying no Jedi.
No Jedi.
Andor.
Lacey, what do you think?
James, I actually want you to go on this because I'm interested to see what you think, and then I'm going to base my opinion on what you say.
I don't know what I think because I'm not allowed to explain my answers on this
Oh,
show.
Oh my god. Oh, the horror.
You're not even talking about the question. You're talking about drinking margaritas. I'm like, answer the question. I was answering the question. Gosh. No, same reason John just gave. It's Cassian's show, and it's going to be about war, and it's going to be about spies and stuff like that. I think they're going to lean into the same way. Here's an example. WandaVision leaned into powers and magic and great abilities and stuff like that. And Falcon and Winter Soldier was like mostly about just it seemed more grounded in earth and politics and stuff like that. Yeah. I think this show is the like war side of it, and they're not going to get in too much like Jedi temples and other sort of Force relics and things like that. Lacey?
I kind of have a question about the question. Do mentions count as presence, or you're talking like a literal Jedi on the screen?
Well, it's Dave who asked the question.
Oh, sorry. You're right. Dave, answer the question.
Yeah.
Because the way I see it is I don't think that we're going to see a Jedi because of the time period, and I don't think we'll be at a Jedi temple because they do that in Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're going to see that, but I think that Jedi could be mentioned because you have to have some type of mention in it at some point, just like The Mandalorian did at some point, to tie it back to a lot of what Star Wars is about. And then also because Cassian has to know what Jedi are because he goes and explains it to Jyn later, like the guardians of the temple and stuff like that. So I'm just thinking like at some point it has to be mentioned, or he has to interact with someone that talks about it and maybe blows it off. But I don't know if that counts as a presence. So I'm going to agree with you guys that no, I don't think there are going to be Jedi or Jedi temples in this show, but I do think it's going to be mentioned.
Okay.
Sorry, right. I don't know why I thought John asked that
No, that's fine.
So the answer, were you all saying no?
Correct.
On that? Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so. Last question on Will of the Force this week is: will the Mos Eisley Chalmun's Cantina be featured in the Kenobi series? Lacey, you're going back to you already on this one. What do you think?
I think this is an easy yes. They already have the set renders from The Mandalorian and the pieces. I'm sure they held on to those. I think they could easily have that be a part of the show and be one of those good examples of nostalgic fan service that there is a reason he has to be there, but it's not like, oh my gosh, look. And then it would also kind of explain in A New Hope how he knew to go there.
John?
And why he says the things he does about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless Dr. Evazan and Ponda Baba are there. But,
yeah.
At the same bar stools, like Norm. No, I agree for all the reasons you just said. They have the set already from Mandalorian. They brought that back to the finest detail. And it would be cool to see. And it would make sense because, like you said, he knows the area. So I agree 100% with what Lacey said. We will see the Cantina in the Kenobi series.
Yeah, I didn't think about the production aspect of it, but that's absolutely true. The big one that stuck out to me is why I thought this would happen was because he seems to know exactly where to go. He's like, oh, you want to get off this planet? You know, and I mean, he's been there a long time, but I think that's kind of the thing around the Kenobi series is that he's probably going to leave the planet. So if he leaves the planet and him and Luke need to leave the planet, you know, where do you go? You go to the place. You go to Mos Eisley Spaceport. You know, and then he specifically goes to the bar looking for the pilot. You know what I mean? It seems like he has met or has already talked to Chewbacca, even though I don't think canonically that lines up. But
sure.
He's like the first person he talks to in the bar, and they're having a conversation when Luke gets in trouble. So, I think, then we're all in the agreement that it's probably going to show up. And that'll lead us into our discussion, right, John?
We see why he says you'll never find a more wretched
That's what I said.
Yeah.
What
are you doing the hand on the hip? Don't do the hand on the hip thing.
I'm curious if that will be a cheesy line in the show, where he says something like, "This place is just a hive of scum and villainy," or something like that. And everybody's gonna go, "Oh."
No, I think something bad's got to happen that he thinks that, like, someone's gonna like take his money and run, or I don't know.
Yeah. Or like someone grabs his lightsaber and has to chase him down or something like that. But as long as he doesn't say hello there, but he's going to, and it's gonna be annoying.
You think he's gonna say it?
Yeah, probably. They can't help themselves. All right. Our discussion this week, James, thanks for the segue, is...
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
Nostalgia in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. So, kind of like the Cantina, we do like to do a little warm-up usually at the end of the previous segment, but nostalgia can be a wonderful treat applied to films and shows, giving a nod to what came before and giving fans a nice reminder of their youth by calling back things that they have loved for so long. Now, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series will certainly come with its hits of nostalgia, or what some may refer to as, which I disagree with the term, fan service. So while touching on the obvious stuff, Darth Vader, Tatooine, how much nostalgia do we think we'll get in the limited Kenobi series? And is there a correct amount? So, short series, 6 episodes. I'm gonna kind of start things off there. There's not a lot of room, not a lot of breathing room. They gotta get this thing packaged and delivered and get that story done the right way. I do think there is going to be a bunch of nostalgia here. Obviously, there's all the obvious ones, even Owen and Beru and the Lars homestead. And we talked about on Monday, Obi-Wan's house and all that sort of stuff. Maybe we see the lightsaber, Anakin's lightsaber. My hope is that they take their foot off the gas a little bit and don't cater or buckle to the temptation of doing it too much. Like, I felt Dave Filoni's episode on season 1 of The Mandalorian almost did it too much with all the Tatooine beats. It was very, here's all this stuff from A New Hope you remember. A little too much. And he's been known to do that in the Clone Wars. Like, sometimes I think he goes too far with it, which I understand it's fun and I get that element of it, but I don't know that I want it too much. So I'm curious more than anything what they're going to do off-world as far as the nostalgia goes. Because we all know what's going on with Tatooine and exactly all the stuff that should be there, which is nostalgic, but it should be there because it makes sense. My real question is, when he goes off-world, which we all assume he inevitably will in this series, what they're going to reel in for us. Will there be a lot of prequel nods and a lot of stuff like that? So I'm not sure. I just hope there's not too much. I would love to see Obi-Wan go to a planet we haven't seen, and more so than him going to Coruscant and trying to go looking through the Jedi Temple or something like that, and uncover something that we've seen in the prequels. Like, oh, remember that when they knocked that over? There that is. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know which one of you wants to pick up on this, but or if you agree with me or not. If you want the overload of nostalgia, Lacey, you kind of touched on the fact that you kind of want it done right, and James, you brought up similar aspects of that. So I don't know, James, I'll kick it off to you to start this thing, because obviously you more than anyone were the least excited originally about the idea of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Was part of that a concern of the nostalgia thing, and how do you feel about it, and how do you think they'll apply it in this series?
No, it wasn't. The nostalgia factor was not a concern at all. In fact, for the most part, I don't think I really react I don't think I react poorly when like there's big references or anything like that. I don't have much of an eye roll reflex, if you will. But the thing that I have always tended to lean towards is a 70-30. I think there needs to be 70% new and 30% like old, if you will, or something that makes you feel like it's familiar. And I feel like once you get off that balance, that's when people start to be like, I was a little too much of this, like this. We kept feeling like it was like being thrown in my face. Hey, remember this? Wink, wink. And I feel like it's right around that like 30% mark when you're starting to see too many things pop up. But I think overall, like I didn't like the idea of the series because a lot of things have changed even since then. Like, I think we're definitely getting a vibe where he's leaving the world, and that's not, I don't feel like that was what people wanted in when everybody was requesting the show. You know, everybody was kind of wanting him to have that, like, I stick on Tatooine thing. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, I think it still kind of messes with the story a little bit because it never was really implied that he was leaving. But, you know, hey, you want to do the show and it's fine. We're gonna go off world. And if we go off world and that becomes part of the canon, I'm down to hear it. I'm down to hear the story. And that definitely sounds more exciting than him sitting on the desert. Like, could you imagine the show really right now? Like 6 episodes with Darth Vader and all these other people that are around and he never leaves Tatooine. That sounds crazy to me.
Right.
Like,
I agree.
So then I'm like, okay, so they're definitely going to do some cool stuff with this. And again, another reason I was not big on the show was because, you know, we didn't know Hayden Christensen was coming back. That changes a lot, you know, even if it is just flashbacks. Like, I know that tingles the nostalgia reflex, like I was talking about a minute ago, but like, I don't really know that is going to be a bad thing for me. I'm going to be like, oh, they're doing a scene where it's like General Kenobi and his, you know, it's General Skywalker too, but like, yeah, his Padawan or whatever. Yeah. I think that sounds really interesting. And I'm excited to see that kind of thing happen. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's where I'm at, as I don't really know that there's going to be too much in there, because I think with 6 episodes, they're not going to want to fill it up with remember this. They're going to want to do what they want to do.
Lacey, like you've seen, and great points, James, for sure. But Lacey, like you've seen online, you're usually dialed into a lot of the fan buzz and that sort of thing. There's people saying like, oh, you know, we want to see Jar Jar. We come back. For it, so there's people who just want it so much, and then there's people who are like, no, I don't want that. Where do you lie? I know what you said at the top about in general, but with the Kenobi series, where's your needle, and what works and what doesn't, and what do you think we're gonna get out of this one?
I think it has to be, like James said, a balance in the way of stuff we haven't seen with moments or notes of stuff that we know that tie it back to what we already have seen. I think the moment you go every 2 seconds showing something is where it gets a little too much. Like, I 100% agree with you, John, about Filoni's Tatooine episode of The Mandalorian. I felt like it was over the top. Like, we got it. We know exactly where they are.
Like, I still enjoyed it, but...
Yeah, this character's clearly a nod to Han Solo. We get it. He's sitting in the same spot. It just felt like too much. Whereas... generally, if you look at The Mandalorian, there are moments that you're like, I know what this is. Like Cam Tono, like, I know what that is.
Yeah.
But then it also, if you don't know what it is, it's not going to take away from the show. I think that's the balance that you're looking for, is if someone comes in and they've never seen Star Wars, they're still just going to enjoy it as much as someone that knows what that thing is. And I think, like James said, when you have Hayden coming in and you have hints that he's going to leave Tatooine, you can't keep harking back on old stuff, because it's going to be, I don't want to say old, but it's going to be just like repetitive. And the best example I can give, which I apologize, it's not a Star Wars example again, because I think Star Wars does it pretty well without going overboard, but Jurassic World is an example of a movie that I felt went too hard on nostalgia and fan service, and it took away from the overall story of what that movie was. Because it was a lot of like, oh, remember this thing? Here it is. Oh, remember when they said this? Here it is. And you were like, okay, like, all right. And I felt like, James, I think you said this either today or a numerous episode or a previous episode, where you get taken out. You're like, oh gosh, why are you showing me the goggles from Jurassic Park? I don't really need to see the goggles, but now that you're showing it to me, I'm just thinking about that other thing. I'm not thinking about what we're looking at.
Yeah. Let me jump back in, because I think so it's very delicate, right? Because it's difficult to be a director, right? It's very delicate because you're trying to write a line that isn't so clear. Because you could say, oh, we have 30% nostalgia in our movie, but for a lot of people, that they're not going to recognize 20% of that stuff.
Right.
So the thing is like, for some people, they're going to come in and they'd be like, oh, it really felt good. They didn't feed me the nostalgia stuff. It was there, but like, and I recognized it, but it wasn't like in your face. Whereas like other people are going to walk out of this exact same movie and be like, it didn't even feel like the same thing at all. Because they didn't recognize 20% of what that was trying to be a reference, right? So it's like you're trying to find that balance with people. It's almost like you need to have two levels. You need to have a level that's like, hey, this is nostalgia for the hardcore fan because nobody's going to get this. But you also need to have this additional level that is like very clearly trying to be a reference. So it's like
level 1 reference, and then you have like level 5 reference.
That's what I think. And I think like sometimes when you get that big, it's supposed to be very clear for the fans that maybe aren't picking up on all the other stuff that you as a diehard are. That's when the other people go, oh my God, Ponda Baba, and he says the same line and he's got the hands up. Like, but for one person watching Rogue One that isn't picking up on like most other things, like maybe they don't even realize Yavin 4 was the name of the planet or something, you know, like just dumb stuff that most fans would get, they're not getting. So they need things like right in their face so that they still have a good time with the movie and it feels like Star Wars. Another thing about nostalgia in the movies, when I think people start to pick up on things, is when it's placed there in a way that like it wouldn't normally happen in real life that way, kind of thing. So like, I don't know, like say you want to run into a character, well, you would need to have your main character meet someone who meets somebody else who just happens to be Jeff Goldblum or something like that. And it's like, this would never happen. That's like 3 connections away or something. Like, I think if you're going to do it, you have to do it in a way that feels natural. Like, oh, there's only one person on the planet who can answer this question, and it's Jeff Goldblum. We need to go back to him. Instead of something that's like...
Or 2 tubes. Like 2 tubes being in Rogue One and also in Solo. You're like, okay, that makes sense because he's in both those scenarios.
So say like the main character of the new Jurassic Park movie's son went to school with the daughter of Jeff Goldblum's character or something.
Right,
and then that's how they end up in the same situation. You're like, I don't believe that. That's so crazy of a circumstance. But sometimes they just need to make those connections to get a character in or a prop in or something like that. You brought up the example of like the goggles or something like that. Did she have to pick that up? There's probably billions of other props that could have been the case, but she happens to pick up the goggles.
I'm just saying, I don't think the goggles would be
is.
there however many years later in like somewhat decent condition. I was like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, like,
they had like that one Jeep left over.
Yeah,
so let's bring that Ford Explorer back or whatever.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that George Lucas is just as guilty as anyone of doing this in the prequels. I mean, there's a lot of that, but also just. I have to bring in Chewbacca. I have to bring in R2-D2 and C-3PO. He almost brings in Han Solo in like a brief like flyover cameo. He brought over anyone who was alive from the original trilogy. He had to bring him in, and he didn't have to do that. Like, and a lot of people disagree with this. C-3PO and R2-D2 probably shouldn't have been in the prequels because it really mucked things up for the original trilogy, in my opinion. He had to do this whole thing where you pretended Obi-Wan recognized R2 and winked at him, or he forgot about him. Like it gets messy. It does. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah, and here's a good example of that. The Jabba the Hutt shows up in the Phantom Menace, and so does Chewbacca. But Jabba the Hutt feels real because
Chewie's Revenge of the Sith.
That's what I meant. Yeah, but they show up in the prequels. But Jabba makes sense because he was ruling over that area at the time, and he does not directly talk to or have any conversations with the characters. So therefore, all of a sudden, it feels believable. But like you go to Kashyyyk, and it's a literal planet full of who knows how many Wookiees, and they seem to be focusing on Chewbacca, who's hanging out with Yoda, and he's his like personal assistant or something. And you're like, this doesn't feel believable because like the connections to get to that person, it's just too many connections. It needs to feel like a natural thing.
But I bring that up because you're gonna, like, if there is, and there has been, JJ got accused of this. Anyone making current Star Wars gets accused of, like, oh, it's just Disney doing a little fan service. George Lucas is just as guilty, if not more, than anybody at doing this.
I think JJ did it the best.
I thought JJ did it beautifully in subtle ways. So, like, for example, like, George Lucas had Obi-Wan take the blaster, throw it away, and say, so uncivilized. A nod to the lightsaber is an elegant weapon for a more civilized age. That's a good, I get that. That's a little bit of a nod to this. Whereas maybe, like, if that happened in, like, an episode of the Clone Wars, Filoni would do the whole direct line over again or something like that. And I'm not dumping on Filoni here, but there are a lot of repeat lines that they used in Clone Wars that were used verbatim in, like, the original trilogy and stuff like that. But my point is, there's going to be certain things where people see this in the show. They're going to be like, oh, I don't know if I needed to see that. And like you brought up, James, Yoda being best friends with Chewbacca, which is insanity to me. And I hate it. I hate
out of all the rookies and all
not only do I hate it, when you think about, like, Empire Strikes Back and, like, knowing that Yoda and Chewie knew each other, it drives me absolutely insane. But Yoda being in the Kenobi series would be perfect, because it's somewhere Obi-Wan can go off-world. He knows how to get there because he tells Luke, you're going to go to the Dagobah system and you're going to find Yoda here. He's familiar with it. There's history there. It could be even that may be the scene where we see Qui-Gon, where he goes to visit Yoda and Qui-Gon visits them as a spirit or something. That is nostalgia. Revisiting Dagobah and Yoda's hut is nostalgia, but that could really work for the narrative of the Kenobi series. Whereas if you bring in Jar Jar Binks just because Ewan McGregor was Kenobi in the prequels and you just want to bring in Jar Jar Binks, that's bad nostalgia. Mm-hmm. As much as we want Ahmed Best to get his redemption tour as Jar Jar, if you're ever going to do that, that's not the place for it. And he has denied involvement, so I'm not saying that's a thing. But there were rumors that he was going to be showing up with a beard and all that stuff. I would let Ahmed Best play a different character entirely and bring him back, let him be in Star Wars forever. Mm-hmm. That's cool with me. But do you see what I'm saying, though? Like, Jar Jar, like, if I saw Jar Jar in the Kenobi series, I think I would be, like, visibly upset, because it's not good for Jar Jar. It's not good for anything. It wouldn't make any sense for him to show up. It would solely be for nostalgia, like, take you out of the show placement. Yeah. And I think that would be trouble. Whereas Yoda, I think, would be like, yes. Yeah. Do that.
And that is, like, another, like, good example. It's a future predictive kind of example of what I was talking about with the Jabba and the Chewbacca thing. It's kind of the same thing, is because, I mean, you can sit there as a fan and speculate and you go, oh, this makes sense. It makes sense that Obi-Wan would want to speak with Yoda, but does it make sense that Obi-Wan would want to speak to Jar Jar? I mean, you could come up with something, and you'd be like, all right, that's the story. But, like,
well, that doesn't. You caused all the problems. Right. Like, you're.
Let me find this guy who caused all these problems.
It doesn't seem to, like, lean itself towards that, kind of thing. So, that's an example of where I feel like if he were to show up, it takes you out, like we were saying earlier. It takes you to this place where you start to think like the writers were like, oh, we just got word that, so-and-so is interested in doing the show now. And now we have to, like, figure out a way to work that character in. And it just,
always where my brain goes.
And that doesn't feel right,
Is how does this make sense? And that's how I get removed from the project or the movie or whatever, is because I'm like, how is this logical that this person or thing is here?
Which again, it's the same like Rise of Skywalker thing, like Palpatine, he's back. Well, okay,
sure.
All of a sudden now we got word that so-and-so is coming back. I know. But it sounds like we might be able to do this. We might be able to pull this off. So it's like, okay, cool. Let's figure out a way to make that work. But
I don't want to get into that.
No, I understand. But
he's just
I love that.
No, yeah. I know, but you can at least acknowledge that like it felt like we were going one direction and then they twisted it, and it starts to feel like, I think the writers just wanted to do something different, and so they brought in a character that comes kind of out of nowhere, and it's fine. It's the story. It is what it is.
Clumsy.
Yeah.
a little bit.
Well, maybe
Well,
JJ should be banished.
No.
You got,
but I'm okay. But
Back
in
to Jar Jar.
comparison, though, The Force Awakens, I think, does nostalgia perfectly.
Mhm.
I think that movie it does exactly what we were talking about earlier, where it has these high levels that anybody that knows of Star Wars or has seen a Star Wars film will get it, and then they have these deeper things, these deeper cuts that diehard fans will be like, "Oh my gosh, that's awesome."
Mhm.
That you don't even consider. And
sure.
that's what I'm looking for with the Obi-Wan series.
Well, Lacey, let me ask you this, because you've more than anyone out of the three of us anyway, even though I think we all want it, are like, yeah, I want to see Jabba the Hutt back. I want to see the puppet Jabba the Hutt back. A lot of people are saying, I want to see, they're going to be on Tatooine. I want to see Jabba the Hutt in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. I want to see Obi-Wan dealing with Jabba. I think that's bad nostalgia, because I don't see
you would
in this
have
situation.
to bring up the Clone Wars, because Obi-Wan went to see Jabba for Rada.
Oh, right, the movie, yeah.
So like that's the interaction that would have to be somehow brought up, which
he's like, "Hey, how's your kid doing?"
Yeah, so like
God.
that's where it kind of gets into what James was saying, is like, how does this
my God,
work?
it's horrible.
Because they've literally had a conversation, they've made dealings with each other. He's been there. And that might also fall into that category, which we've had discussions on, which is the animation versus live action of, has animation taken away certain things from live action, not on purpose, but because they tried to tell stories via animation? How is that now going to determine how things take place in live action? Because you have to, if you have Jabba there, you have to somehow acknowledge that relationship interactions.
I think it would be a mistake to have Jabba the Hutt in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
I agree for that reason, though. They would have to somehow engage with that scenario. And I don't know how you'd explain that to someone that has never seen the animated series or anything of, oh, by the way, Jabba has a son and the son gets kidnapped and stuff. Now, they could make a smaller kind of nod to it or a reference, but I think it would just be a little confusing. Yeah, but I'm happy to hear how it might work. If James has a better idea, I honestly don't know how it would work.
The only thing I can come up with, if they were gonna stick Jabba in there and they needed him to seem like they had confrontations before, or interactions at least, is just imply that over, like, since Obi-Wan has been living on Tatooine, he's worked with or had talked to him before. You know what I mean? So kind of imply that when he walks in there, he already kind of knows him, because they, you know, like, Jabba, this isn't going to be like last time, you know, or something like that.
Incident or something.
Yeah. I mean, something, you don't have to be so specific. You can just like leave it at like a general thing. Well, what is last time? And then maybe that gives an opportunity for
that feels like Han a little bit, though.
I understand, but I'm just saying, like, that gives an opportunity for an author or something like that to play into that story.
Yeah.
And push people back to the Clone Wars.
Yeah. But I just think, I don't know. Again, I think Jabba's another one where it kind of makes sense. But like I was saying about Phantom Menace, Anakin and the rest of the crew never directly interact with Jabba. And so now you're saying, okay, well, Obi-Wan, because he's on Tatooine, he's got to go meet Jabba. And I'm like, does he though? And I think that's where John comes in. He doesn't have to. So if you start to see that, then it starts to get in this weird thing where it's like, I'm willing to believe it and I'm willing to go with the story because it's Star Wars and I love Star Wars. But it starts to get like it's going towards that murky line where you're like, are they doing this just because they can bring back Jabba?
And we have, like our general chat on Patreon or on Discord, where some of our generals were like, we'd love to see Obi-Wan walking into Jabba's palace and Han and Chewie walking out, and
we said that.
Alden and Chewie back. Did we say that, or did they say that?
I said that.
Okay, that would be. It's fun in a vacuum.
Because you talked about Jabba showing up, like in the Kenobi series in last week's episode.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
You know, it'd be crazy, John, is if Obi-Wan was walking in, Han was walking out.
You know what it was? They brought it up about us talking about
it's
it. It's
okay, John. Sometimes, I come up with really good ideas. You don't want to give me credit
here's
for
the problem. I wouldn't want to see that because it just be like, oh my God, now Han and Chewie crossing paths with Obi-Wan before that. And it's just like, I want Obi-Wan meeting Chewie to be that first time there where that pilot introduces him to him.
And you had said that on the episode too.
Yeah. So I don't want Jabba. If there's any Jabba in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, and for whatever reason there needs to be an interaction, I'm cool with there being a hologram Jabba and he speaks to somebody through that, and that's fine. I don't need to be going back to Jabba's palace in the Kenobi series, especially with how short of a series it is.
I feel really
that
dumb
for the Solo thing, and
I feel really dumb for not bringing up the Clone Wars stuff when we had this conversation last week.
Well, it's good to forget those scenes, in my opinion. But
I just feel like that's such an important storyline. Like, how could I forget that? I feel so dumb. I'm sure people were like, Lacey, how could you not think of this?
Jabba having a kid thing is...
I'm just saying Jabba and Obi-Wan interacting, not necessarily what the scene is, but like, I can't believe I forgot that. I feel so dumb. Ugh.
It's all right. Whatever.
Do you think okay? What about things like we see Luke go and stand on that ridge again and look at the suns?
No good.
I think that's too much. I think you got to keep that to when he does it originally.
Because is he yearning at 9? He's probably more of a playful kid. Mm-hmm. He's not worried about, oh, my friends just went off to the academy and here I am stuck here.
He doesn't know that kind of desperation yet, I don't think.
Yeah, he doesn't yearn yet. He's just a kid. I want to see a Luke Skywalker that we don't know yet, because we see all these iterations of Luke. We see the immature, young, but yearning Luke Skywalker. Then we see the almost arrogant, because now I'm getting my powers. Then we see the stoic Jedi in Return of the Jedi. And then we see the jaded, I screwed up everything Luke from The Last Jedi. I want to see a little kid Luke Skywalker who's maybe just really innocent, and there's no dreams of looking to the horizon yet or anything like that. What do you think, James? Do you want to see like because you brought it up, so is that something you'd want to see?
No, actually, well, the thing is where I was going with that is I was trying to think of like props and poses. I went from props to like, you're going to see Lars Homestead, but then like, you might see the droids or sets and things, and stuff. And then I started thinking about the way that was all designed, and I was thinking poses and like, if I don't know.
How about
it's kind of hard to
Obi-Wan's
explain,
on
but
Dagobah?
like, what?
Obi-Wan's on Dagobah,
mm-hmm.
about to talk to Yoda. And Qui-Gon comes around the tree the exact same way that Obi-Wan comes around the tree when he's a Force ghost.
Yeah.
And sits down in the log.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's more the direction I was going in. And
he's just like,
yeah. And I thought of is there a chance that you see like somebody call for Luke, and then like when we see him, like the way the camera is, like he walks up over the ridge and he kind of like stands on it like that, or something. Or they
Luke,
might do
Luke.
well, they might do the same one. They might call for Luke, and then he like you're down and you're looking up. That's his reveal in the movie.
Sure. Yeah.
He comes in.
I was thinking sunset.
You see Luke looking at the sunset, and then it pans down to his hands, and he has like a remote control, and he's playing with it just like a toy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a drone.
Well,
or I could see like him getting into trouble.
Like,
yeah, so
I'm like, oh my God, dude, you're 19. He's like,
yeah.
That always makes me cringe too. That part, I'm like, I never even thought about that.
I'm like, he's not.
Every
8.
time I watch it, though, I'm always like,
yeah,
seems out of character.
Yeah,
right. And then he meets Princess Leia, and he like throws out all his toys, and he starts doing his hair and stuff.
Yeah,
and then it's his sister.
And then there you go. And then he starts playing with his toys again because he's like, oh, I'm so ashamed. But yeah, I could see like, this isn't necessarily nostalgia or anything like that, but I could see them doing something where Luke gets into trouble as a little kid, and that's how he meets him for the first time. Mm. And Obi-Wan has to do a similar sound to make someone scatter away to leave Luke alone. And then that's how they they may mirror that. And they'll call it it's like poetry, it rhymes, when really it's just nostalgia of how they meet in some canyon, you know? But I could totally see something like that happening. But it's going to be that fine line that they walk. And
yeah, to one person, that's an eye roll moment. And to another person, they're like...
It's a parallel.
They're like, oh, they didn't even pick it up when they watched the show, and then they went on like Screen Rant YouTube or something, and they were like, "Oh, that's so cool!"
right, yeah. And so and it's like I said on Monday, you know, this show can't be a miss. It has to be a home run, and they know that because there's only so much you could do with Obi-Wan, and especially with Ewan McGregor. This is probably the last shot here. So this cannot be a miss for Kathleen Kennedy, can't be a miss for Disney or Lucasfilm. So you gotta hope with the first initial script that they tore apart and created into a series, then they gave it to another writer, hopefully all these moves and tweaks and turns and twists that they've made to make this into something, they pushed all the right buttons, and whoever's editing this thing, you have Deborah Chow directing it, knows how to have their finger on the pulse the right way to make this work. And I'm optimistic that they will, because Ewan McGregor seems really excited about Deborah Chow. I don't know who's editing the show. That's obviously a big thing with Star Wars. We know with the whole how Star Wars was saved in the edit with Marsha Lucas, all that stuff. There's certain things that you can do to make this right. Even if they do film certain things, Deborah Chow may be in post like, ooh, that's too much. We got to pull that back, or you know. And she seems to have a good eye, and I'm looking forward to seeing what she does. And hopefully, you know, I don't have much else to add to that. I don't know if you guys have anything else you want to fire up, but
it just popped into my head. I'm surprised we made it through this whole thing without mentioning the recent Mortal Kombat movie that came out, and how, I mean, I'm not to spoil anything that happens or anything like that. I'm not trying to do that, but the thing, like, that movie is just completely chocked full of stuff that's supposed to be like, remember the game? Remember the thing from the game? You know?
Yeah.
And it's characters and it's lines and stuff. And it's like, there's stuff in it that's really cool. And you're like, oh, I remember this, but it feels fresh. It's obviously supposed to be there for nostalgia reasons. I mean, the movie pretty much exists for nostalgia reasons, right? But the thing is like every once in a while they'll do something in the thing that I'm like flawless victory or something like that. I'm like, oh, come on.
Cobra Kai's like that. Like, I love Cobra Kai, but every once in a while there's a moment that something happens and you're like, you could have left this out.
Yeah. So I mean that's like that's a good example of a movie that, like, listen to this discussion that we've had. If you haven't seen the new Mortal Kombat, then go watch that movie with the sole purpose of trying to sort out what you think was good and bad nostalgic references, and kind of understand, like, that maybe not everybody's picking up on the same things you are, and you're probably missing a ton of stuff that maybe diehard fans are like, well, all this stuff is just a repeat of, you know, or whatever. I don't know. I find that kind of interesting when it comes to like how much is too much of one thing, because to different people, obviously it always means completely different thing. Like, oh, the love story was a little too much. And then like other people, I went and saw a Dragon Ball movie one time and someone was like, I thought it was a little too much fighting. and we were all like, everybody who likes Dragon Ball, we were all like, we actually kind of thought it didn't have enough fighting in it.
Is that, I don't know if that is nostalgia though.
Well, in the case of the Dragon Ball one, no. But I'm just saying in general, I think it's a good exercise when it comes to looking at movies. Like, was there too much...
like preferences.
Yeah, was there too much of this character in the movie? Or was there too much of this location in the movie? Something like that. And people just have a different vibe because I don't like that location, so there was too much of it. But then another person was like, I loved it! And like, there wasn't enough, you know? It's tricky.
With the video game movies, it seems like the diehard of video game fans want it to be as much like the video games as possible. And the biggest example of that is how Sonic looked in that Sonic movie. And they changed it to make him look like Sonic, and the movie made $1 gazillion. And they're making a sequel. Whereas who knows what would have happened if he had little human teeth and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But so like, I'll give a couple examples here. to get your measure, and then we can try to hop out of this in a bit.
Do I get to give final thoughts?
Yes, we're not even at final thoughts.
Okay.
I just want to toss two things at you guys. If Luke shoots a womp rat and yells bullseye with his T-16, is that too much nostalgia? Yes or no?
When was he flying T-16s?
His Skyhopper, his T-16 Skyhopper that he bullseyes.
I know,
womp
but in
rats
this
with.
show he's only 9. Was he doing it at 9?
Yeah, like
Probably.
like go-kart.
Or are you asking me to suspension of disbelief? He's flying them at 9.
Actually,
No,
I
I
think
don't
the
think-
comics confirmed that he was flying a Skyhopper at a young age. What you would expect,
like
around
Anakin.
here. Yeah,
It's like it's like a pod racer go-kart for a kid.
That
yes,
wouldn't
no?
bother me.
No,
No.
James.
I wouldn't mind if he did it, but I think the bullseye is too on the nose.
Okay.
I think if he said bullseye, I'd be like, oh.
Too far.
Yeah.
Tarkin talking via like a comlink to Director Krennic for an update from Galen Erso on the Death Star.
Too much.
Too much.
Too much.
Okay. So I'm just saying, like, if we get Tarkin in this, there's a lot. So it's going to be a lot of one of those, like, is it or isn't it? And it's just a matter of if they hit the right button. So, yeah, Lacey, do you have any final thoughts
See,
on
but
this one?
what you just said, the difference is Tarkin radioing or doing a comlink asking for an update is one thing. Him asking for an update about Galen Erso is
That's
where it
the
goes
thing.
too far.
Yeah.
So
Right.
if you're just asking for an update on this, project, whatever, then you're like, yeah, there it is, project. I got the name. That makes sense. But once you get into like too many details, I've been watching this show called The Circle on Netflix, and it's like a social media show where they catfish and stuff.
yeah.
But the
my
thing
wife
here
watches
is that people that do really well in the game don't give too many details. They keep it broad enough that you believe it, but once you get into that nitty-gritty, like into the Galen Erso, naming specific people, too detailed, then it's not believable. And I feel like that's where this kind of falls into, is like him mentioning, hey, this project, how's it going, seems believable, like James was talking about earlier. Whereas him asking specifically about Galen Erso to me doesn't seem believable.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things. Like Tarkin could say that special project. He could say Project Stardust. Yep. I was just about to say that. He could also say
That's what I was saying, yeah.
an update on the Death Star. And you know what I mean?
Right.
And those 3 levels of right there is like,
Okay.
I mean, yeah, it depends. Different fans are going to react different way to those mentions.
What if he's like,
specifically.
Director Krennic, please ask Galen Erso why he wanted details on the reactor core.
For Project Stardust, which is also the Death Star.
It's like, reactor core, because that's where he laid his trap, because that's where,
like,
okay.
and like Tarkin like gets a thing that says approval of thermal port or whatever, and he's like, I'll look at this later or something. Yeah.
I'll just look at it later.
Yeah. It's like obviously like completely ham-fisted.
Do you think they're going to go through the trouble of bringing Tarkin in? I don't know.
I don't think so
for this show. Yeah.
I think he might get a mention, or like you said, come over a radio with like one line. I don't see you're never going to see him on camera.
Yeah.
You know what?
I think you're more likely to get Hera in Andor than you are to get Tarkin in.
Yes, I agree with that.
Obi-Wan. Yeah.
My final thought is this show is going to be so good.
Yeah.
Y'all better enjoy it.
Let's
And
build
take
it up. Let's add
real quick. One aspect of Lacey, one aspect of Kenobi himself nostalgia being that it is the same actor from the prequels that you would like coming back, or something referencing from the prequels that he did, or something like that. Anything that comes to mind?
I want him to look into the chest at the lightsaber at some point.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Because it's not in too much for me, like him saying hello there, which again, I say that now, but if he says it, I'm going to love it. But right now, currently, I'd be like, okay. Or like him doing the crate dragon yell, you're like, okay. But I feel like the lightsaber is something that could be connected to either a memory, a dream, a nightmare, a moment of depression or sadness, just a moment of remembrance while looking at that chest with the lightsaber, which then calls it back to A New Hope, calls it back to Force Awakens. I think that would be a really easy way to say a lot in a quick moment.
Nice. James, anything you want out of Ewan?
I was just
himself?
thinking anything dialogue based is like a bad request. Like, I need him to say blank because, like, the hello there thing or something.
What about the beard rub that he does?
He'll bring in Luke and he'll
old.
point to a whiteboard and it says 5 reasons why you need the high ground, like, or something. Like,
Yeah.
just so very, I don't know. Like, I think it's, for me, the number one thing that I think is going to be like, this didn't need to be here, but they're doing it because, you know, the opportunity is there and it might not always be there. That I would actually like is the Qui-Gon thing. And I think we've very clearly all said that we're on the page of that or whatever. But I think, like, if somebody was watching the show and they hadn't thought of that before, they'd be like, of course. Right. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, I think that, to me, is something that is going to immediately put you back to the prequels. I guess, like, in a good way, but it's not like a subtle hint at all. It's like, we're doing this for the sole purpose of taking you back to the Phantom Menace.
Yeah. Yeah, mine is the lightsaber too, but do not ignite that lightsaber. That's all I'm saying. I do not want that lightsaber.
I want to see him ignite his own lightsaber.
Oh, so he's doing that,
but not Anakin's. I just want to see him open up the chest. Shut it.
Yeah, he can even. For me, he can do anything he wants with that lightsaber. You take it out, look at it. Do not ignite it, because I want the next time that being ignited, since Anakin did it, being when Luke has it in his hands.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But the last thing I'm thinking of that could be a wild card, which, like, brings up Solo to me, is like if Maul showed up in this series, and I think I'd just be on board with that, and that wouldn't be too
I
much
would be all for
cool.
Maul, and you know what? I feel like we just talked about this. I can't remember.
Well, I brought up the chance that Maul and Vader would go toe to toe.
No, I'm thinking of something different. I apologize. I am thinking about how at the Solo premiere he sat next to Ray Park in the Solo premiere, and they reacted to Ray Park being on screen. They were buddy. They, Ewan went right through the red carpet, didn't say anything to anyone, which makes me laugh still to this day, because he could have gone in the back door. I don't know why they had him run down the red carpet.
Because people talk about it.
Yeah. So, but then he sat next to Ray Park, so he could have sat anywhere in the theater. They sat him there. So that's why I'm just and I know that could have been something for the movie, maybe that they changed for the show, but I feel like that would be something really cool, and maybe that's what Ray Park's been hinting at on his Instagrams.
Yeah, I mean, it could be cool. So there's a lot of things we talked about a lot here. I know as more info comes out about this show, we'll definitely be revisiting this type of conversation, because there's a lot of different ways you can approach this Obi-Wan Kenobi show in terms of speculation, having fun podcasting about it. We could certainly keep going, but we're towards the end of the show. So let us know what you think about this chat. What do you think about our walk the line of nostalgia, what we may get with Kenobi, what we want to get, and what may be too much, and our comps to other things that have happened in Star Wars, including Lucas and beyond, and the sequel trilogy and all that stuff. So hit us up in the comments. Definitely share this episode with a friend. We appreciate that. But we're not done yet, because now we're going to send it over to Lacey for our next segment.
All right, guys, it's time for Resistance Transmissions. So the way that this works is every week John puts up a crazy wacky situation on Twitter.
Crazy?
Yeah, wacky crazy. Crazy wacky situation on Twitter at RBATSWNN. And you guys give your answers. So I don't know what the scenario is. I don't know what you wrote. So let's see how it goes. So the situation is cast any actor or actress as an existing Star Wars character. #Star Wars. What is an improvised line you could see that actor saying as that character? Interesting. First up is Haas at Haas_Aslam. What's up? He said Ray Liotta as Jabba the Hutt, saying, quote, "As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster."
Nicely done.
Next is Sean Santarude at Rude Cold. Sean, how's it going?
Hey, buddy.
Been a while. He said Arnold Schwarzenegger as Anakin Skywalker. Kenobi, you were my brother, Anakin. I loved you. Anakin, I'll be back.
This has vibes of like SNL auditions, you know, and it's like other celebrities like doing auditioning for
so the
Indiana
photo
Jones or whatever.
I posted with the tweet is someone photoshopped Al Pacino's face onto Han Solo because he auditioned for the role or was considered for the role, but also Lacey Sean used the gif of Arnold going into the lava with his thumb.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'll be back. Next is Alex Zukis at Zubaka. What's up, Alex? Alex said Paris Hilton as Obi-Wan watching Anakin burn on Mustafar. That's hot.
Oh, God. I almost didn't want to put it in, but I was like, Alex.
I hope you enjoyed that.
That's so great. Like, could you imagine the casting and everything? And they're like, wait till you see Revenge of the Sith, though. So it's all going to pay off.
Next is purple_talk_22 at purpletalk22. He got his handle.
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah?
No, yeah.
Well, it's not a name.
He said Samuel L. Jackson is Lando Calrissian. He says L3, you done flirting? I'm still ready. Lando, hold on to your butts.
Lacey, I could change my name on Twitter to Myra Trunks, and you would have to say I got my handle. But that's not true. No, I didn't. I changed my name to match my handle.
Now your name
because I didn't
Myra
get it.
Trunks.
Yeah, especially in this case, it's like he didn't even get Purple Talk. He got Purple Talk 22.
I believe Lacey technically doesn't give me credit for getting my handle, but
you don't have your handle. That's not your name.
According to my family, I got my handle.
I know, and the last time you said this is they're important to me and they're the only ones that matter. I don't care what you think, I believe is what you said.
How do you remember stupid things like it's unbelievable?
Because it was so mean that you said that to me.
Oh my God.
Next is Mark at the kind of Vakins at _kind_awakens. And I love that
way to get your handle, Mark.
Every dude listening to this podcast just went, wow, Lacey is like every woman who never forgets anything.
I am not commenting on that at all because some people will find this and
we never forget. All right.
Yeah.
He said Robin Williams is Han Solo, Battle of Yavin. Darth Vader, what? Han Solo, hot jambalaya. You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home. I watched Mrs. Doubtfire the other day and I was like sobbing at the end. It is like a really depressing movie. Very good.
Do people understand? Like, I don't want to drag this out too long. That is a great movie.
Oh, it's so good.
Mrs. Doubtfire?
Yeah.
I might start a podcast just so I can talk about Mrs. Doubtfire.
Hello.
He seems
hot jambalaya.
Next pie bet.
Insane.
When I smash that pie into James's face, he has to do that. He has to do the hello.
That's right. He owes you a pie bet. I keep forgetting.
Yeah.
James. Poor James is hoping it'll go away. We never forget.
Except for you just said you keep forgetting.
I know. Because you didn't wrong me, so I'm not keeping it in the back of my head. Like when John wrongs me, I keep it stored away. All right, next is Lawrence Flynn at LFly11. What up, Lawrence? Lawrence said, Matt Damon as Will Hunting as Luke Skywalker to Han after Leia kisses Luke on Hoth. Luke, do you like apples? Han, yeah. Luke, well, I got her number. How you like them apples? Is that what that's from?
Lacey, have you never seen Good Will Hunting?
I have not.
Yeah.
Come on! Oh, God, it hurts, Dad.
I like the idea of
my
Han
cousin
and Luke
Vinny the other
being
day.
those characters from Good Will Hunting, though. That's pretty funny.
That is good, yeah.
I saw My Cousin Vinny the other day.
For the first time?
Yeah. And I laughed at the grit part because you had said that in an episode. I had no idea what you're talking about.
I think me and James bring that up. We've brought that up at least 10 times. The grit thing.
Because everybody cooks longer than 10 minutes or something. I forget the exact thing in the thing, but the time discrepancy is off because she said she looked at
grit.
3 minutes, and it takes 20 minutes for any normal person to make grits.
Yeah, but she says she does something in a certain specific time range or something like that. And they no, it's the lady, right?
The witness is a man.
Oh, it is? I thought it was a lady.
It's a dude that says he spent 3 minutes making grits and then turned around and then they were running to their car, and he goes, how is that possible? Because it takes any normal person 20 minutes.
Lacey, you studying for single schmodown?
No, but maybe I should. My favorite part of that movie, though, by the way, which I'm the worst. I went into that movie. I don't like being sad at the end of movies. And I know some of the best movies have sad endings, but I don't like it. So I went into that movie demanding that it ends up that Ralph Macchio doesn't go to jail. And I needed to know before the movie even started that he doesn't go to jail.
Wow.
And once I knew that, I was good to go. Although I'm not digging Ralph Macchio's mustache at the beginning, was not good luck for him.
Don't spoil a theme park
I just said I was going to say, but don't spoil that the First Order shows up.
Do you know at the end of Rise of the Resistance, you die?
That's different. I'm sorry. What character interrogates people in The Force Awakens?
Who do you think?
That's
I don't
her
know.
point.
Who interrogates people in The Force Awakens?
A lot of people do.
No. Who interrogates people in The Force Awakens? Who interrogated Poe? Who interrogated Rey?
Pick someone.
Next up, we got Lawrence Flynn at Alpha 11.
Anyway, he won't say it because he knows I'm right. He knows I'm right. All right. TC Rastani. I love that people that didn't listen to Monday are probably like, what the hell? Yeah. At After Hours, TC. Christopher Lloyd as Obi-Wan. Luke. How did my father die? Obi-Wan. Shot in the back by Biff Tannen.
I'm okay with that.
I thought that was so funny. Just so good.
Next is Stephen Bowman at Stephen A. Bowman. What's up, Stephen? Stephen said Owen Wilson as Luke Skywalker. Vader. No, I am your father. Great job with the correct line, by the way. Luke. Wow.
Have you guys seen the Phantom Menace Duel of the Fates fight, but all the lightsaber sounds are replaced with Owen Wilson?
Yes.
Wow.
I've seen that too with Cardi B. They did that. Yeah. Someone did that with Cardi B. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for your answers. We hope you've enjoyed Resistance Transmissions. If you want to be a part of the show, make sure to follow us on Twitter at RBATSWNN and just look out for the scenario and give your answers. So yeah, back to you, John. Really quick though, who interrogates people in The Force Awakens?
Snoke.
He knows I'm right. He knows I'm right. And he won't admit it.
Does.
Leave in the comments who interrogates people from the Resistance in The Force Awakens.
From the Resistance?
No, who interrogates people from the Resistance in The Force Awakens.
Okay. Kylo Ren's in the Rise of the Resistance ride. I don't know if anybody knew that, but I think everybody knew that. Thanks to everybody for listening and watching. I think my grandma knew that. Being a part of the Resistance.
No.
Make sure you subscribe to the show on all of your podcast platforms, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, wherever you get your pods. And of course, youtube.com/Star Wars Newsnet videos. Just a reminder, we did a little bit of reaction to Star Wars Day. So go to the channel and check it out. We gave our takes on it then. And of course, all of our other videos that we have going on the channel that are exclusive to that, as opposed to the audio podcast platform.
Bad Batch reaction show.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, yeah, I'm sure James is going to gloriously plug him thyself. But StarWarsNewsNet.com for all of your Star Wars news, reviews, editorials, information, and more. Me, Johnny Hoey on Twitter. Way to get my handle. And writing and editing over StarWarsNewsNet.com, and my movie podcast, Just Like the Movies, available on all podcast apps, doing Ghostbusters on Tuesday. Who are you going to call? Me. Lacey. When you're not calling me.
I'm not. You mean when I'm not having Rise of the Resistance spoiled for me? People can find me at Lacey Gillerin on Twitter and Instagram.
All right. Very good, James.
I don't know who James is. I'm Myra Trunks.
Myra
and
Trunks.
You can find me at Myra Trunks. Way to get my handle.
Trunks.
Yeah.
I knew it. I knew that was going.
When James comes back out to Connecticut and he drives out and he has his car and has a vanity plate that says like M Trunks or something like that.
And we can go to Chipotle.
It sucks because if you take all the vowels out of Myra Trunks, it's still one letter over. So it's like, I can't do it. You could do Myra.
He thought about it. He's thought about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's been my handle since like 7th grade, but
I love that. That's dedication.
so every time I sign up for something and Myra Trunks is taken, I'm bummed because I don't get
angry.
my handle. But anyway, John was saying about Bad Batch. Yeah, I did the Bad Batch reaction show that came out on Tuesday. So if you guys haven't had a chance to watch the first episode of Bad Batch, and you get a chance to catch it whenever you watch it, make sure to head over to Star Wars Newsnet's YouTube, our YouTube page, and see what I had to say about it. Make sure we're on the same page, and put your opinions, whether I'm right, wrong, what you thought, in the comments, and give that video a like. It could use some plays. I don't know if you guys know or not, but our YouTube doesn't get a lot of attention. So thumbs up, comments, sharing, that always helps. So subscribe to that so that you're in the know when we put out new content and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And that is the end of the show. So that's it. So we hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. We hope you enjoyed Star Wars Day and also our episodes on Monday and today. And don't worry, because we'll be back on Monday morning with another episode right here on the Resistance broadcast. So we'll see you around, kids.